The Martian wind kicked red dust across the colony's outer ring as Rail Maddox knelt beside the broken pipe, squinting into the sunrise. He was 12. The world was quiet that morning, before the screams, before the fire. Ava's voice cracked through his headset. "You're stalling, Rail. That pipe isn't going to fix itself." He smiled. Her voice was always a little too serious, always one step ahead, like she knew the world would turn hostile the moment she looked away. She stood above him, hands on her hips, auburn braid coiled behind her like a whip. "Maybe I'm just admiring your inspiring leadership," he said. She rolled her eyes. "I'm serious. Those Concorde ships are landing closer every day. Something's off." He laughed then. Not because it was funny, but because he thought it couldn't be true. They never found Ava's body. When the orbital strike hit the North Dome, Rail was thrown into a wall. His sister had shoved him behind the reactor housing a split second before the kinetic rods fell from orbit. He remembered the silence that followed, how even the air seemed to recoil. Then the dome cracked. Then the fire came. Rail Maddox woke with a sharp inhale. The hum of machinery surrounded him, clean and cold. The walls of his quarters aboard Heaven's Fist were steel and shadow, lit only by the pale glow of Earth through the porthole. He sat up slowly, sweat clinging to his neck. "Commander Maddox," came a voice, crisp, metallic, emotionless. "Your presence is requested in CIC. Priority 1. Isaac, the ship's combat AI, had a tone like frost. Maddox didn't respond immediately. His gaze lingered on the plaque bolted above his bunk, a name, etched in brass. Lieutenant Ava Maddox, 2361 to 2375. The Command Information Center was alive with quiet chaos. Holograms flickered, enemy fleet trajectories, political chatter across the fringe colonies, a live feed of the burning ruins of Outpost E9. Rail didn't speak for a moment. The images said more than anyone could. 72 hours ago, Lieutenant Cora said, "Zarkith Dominion forces hit our mining base in the Helios Belt. They used a Concorde letter of reprisal as justification. They executed the entire settlement." She turned away. Even now, officers weren't used to war like this. Not when it was their own. "Any response from the Concorde Council?" Rail asked. Dismissive. They claimed the miners were hiding bioweapons research. Her voice cracked. "There were children there, sir." Rail turned to the star map. Helios was deep fringe, one of the first colonies to survive without Concorde aid. They'd fought off famine and solar storms. Now they were gone, vaporized by ships Earth wasn't allowed to even own. "What's Earth Command saying?" Cora hesitated. "They advise restraint. Diplomatic channels are still open." Rail laughed, bitter and quiet. "They were open when they bombed Mars. Open when they blockaded Europa. How many more open doors before they burn the whole house down?" He walked to the center console and placed his palm on the activation plate. Isaac's core flared to life, a sphere of swirling light above the table. "Commander authorization confirmed. Heaven's Fist online. I want the ship prepped for silent launch. Lock all signals down. No pings. No comms. No warnings." Cora blinked. "We're mobilizing?" "But Earth hasn't. Earth's been waiting for someone to tell it to stop bleeding. That moment is now." She straightened. There was no more doubt in her eyes. The Heaven's Fist moved through Saturn's shadow like a predator among ruins. Its obsidian hull was invisible to most scanners, buried beneath electromagnetic countermeasures and ghost algorithms. No one in the Concorde knew the extent of what Earth had built, how many ships, how many minds like Isaac, how many secrets wrapped in silence and ice. Maddox stood on the bridge, watching the rings of Saturn spin beneath them like the edge of a blade. Isaac, estimate the reaction time of the nearest Zarkith fleet if we hit Helix Rift within 40 hours. Estimated response, 4 hours. Enemy assets include 2 dreadnoughts, 6 cruisers, and a carrier group. They do not expect resistance. Good, Rail said. Then will be their education. Silence stretched. And when Earth finds out we've gone rogue? Cora asked. Rail looked at her, not angry, not reckless, but resolved. They won't stop me. Not this time. Because deep down, even the diplomats know, the only thing the galaxy understands is fear. And until now, we've been the ones afraid. He walked toward the front viewport, the stars stretched before him like a graveyard. But we built monsters of our own. Now it's their turn to run. That night, in his quarters, he watched the last recording of Ava, a 10-second clip pulled from an old helmet feed. She was laughing, helmet tucked under her arm, red dust on her cheek. One day, she said to the camera, Earth's gonna matter. Not because they let us in, but because we kicked the doors open. The clip ended. Rail didn't cry. Not anymore. He just reached out and tapped the screen. You were right, he whispered. Now let's kick it down. The Helix Rift wasn't a place anyone visited twice, not by choice. It was a scar in space, twisted by the pull of twin stars locked in a centuries-long dance of destruction. The radiation there could scramble sensors, warp comms, and blind even the most advanced AI systems. That's why Maddox chose it. If the Concorde thought humans would roll over, they hadn't learned to look for traps in the shadows. Heaven's Fist floated beneath the gravity well, cloaked by the interference of the dual stars. Her hull shimmered slightly, vanishing into the curve of space like a knife hidden behind flame. Helix Rift Patrol ETA, 17 minutes, Isaac announced. Zarkith formation is standard wedge. No signs of evasive maneuvers. Commander Maddox stood at the edge of the bridge, arms crossed, watching through the forward viewport as light bent and twisted in unnatural arcs. The rift's core pulsed like a beating heart. Let them get comfortable, he said. I want overconfidence. His voice was calm, cold, coiled like a spring waiting to snap. Orders, sir? Lieutenant Cora asked, eyes on her console. Release the bait. A trio of corvettes, unarmed, retrofitted cargo haulers, emerged from the outer edge of the rift. They transmitted on open frequencies, panicked requests for mercy, faked reactor failures, distress codes known to every Concorde fleet. The Zarkith ships responded exactly as predicted. Primitive vessels identified, crackled a comm across Heaven's Fist's encrypted line. Humans attempting deception. Again. Prepare to annihilate. On the Concorde dreadnought Viralon's Grace, High Strategist Kel Varric leaned forward, mandibles flexing in irritation. Set weapons to clean sweep, he ordered. They learn nothing but pain. His crew obeyed without question. 2 plasma lances surged from the Zarkith fleet, slicing through the first corvette. The explosion bloomed silent across the rift. The second vessel scattered into fragments. The third shuddered, then shut down completely, playing dead. That's when the stars shifted. No, not the stars. The space between them. A ripple, a distortion, then a shape. A shadow tore through the fire. Heaven's Fist uncloaked directly behind the Zarkith cruiser group, its black matter lances already charging. Targeting matrix locked, Isaac confirmed. Primary firing solution achieved. Maddox gave no order. He just nodded. The ship fired. A single dark lance burst forward, thick as a tower, faster than thought, and punched through the lead Zarkith vessel like a spear through paper. It exploded in a flare of red and gold. The second shot came 2 seconds later, this time striking a command ship's engines, severing power and sending it spiraling toward the rift's gravity edge. Return fire. Kel Varric barked. Counterattack. Blind them. But nothing came. Their systems were jammed, sensors scrambled. Their targeting software burned out in seconds from Isaac's quantum disruption pulse, code written by a dozen rogue engineers in Europa's deep crust. On Heaven's Fist, the crew worked without panic. Each station operated like part of a living machine. Cora watched her screen, eyes wide. 3 confirmed kills. 1 dead in the water. The carriers trying to pull back. No, Maddox said. Let them run. Cora frowned. Sir? Let them see. Let them live. I want survivors. I want them to tell stories. Isaac's voice broke in. Incoming emergency broadcast. Enemy fleet issuing priority distress call. On screen, Maddox ordered. The face of Kel Varric appeared in flickering holograph. Blood from a minor head wound trickled down his brow ridge. Behind him, fires burned. Unidentified vessel, cease attack. This is a war crime. We are Concord registered. You are out of alignment. I am Commander Rail Maddox of Earth, he interrupted, stepping into view. And this is no crime. This is overdue. He cut the feed. 20 minutes later, the rift fell silent. The wreckage of 6 Concord vessels drifted among the stars, blackened and split. Only 2 limped away, sputtering engines dragging them into subspace like wounded animals. Battle complete, Isaac confirmed. 0 human casualties. The bridge was quiet. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They just stared out into the rift, watching the bodies float. Cora finally spoke. We just destroyed a Concord fleet. Correction, Maddox said. We made history. The footage hit the galaxy 2 hours later. Someone, no one admitted who, had leaked the battle log to the fringe net. Dozens of news drones captured fragments of the event, broadcasting across every world not hardwired into Concord censorship. Footage showed the Heaven's Fist rising from solar fire, the black lance cleaving through enemy hulls, the silence of death in space. And Rail's voice, recorded and repeated across 10,000 systems. This is Earth. We are not weak. We are not broken. And we are no longer waiting for permission. On the distant planet Relkar, High Lord Talshore stood before a council of allied species, eyes narrow, claws clenched. They dare, he muttered. The room remained silent. He watched the battle footage again. Slowly. Carefully. Then he turned. They've developed weapons we cannot track. Ships that cloak inside radiation. They used to beg. Now they bite. He took 1 step toward the central command console and tapped the command key. Declare Level 3 containment. Effective immediately, humanity is considered an emergent threat to galactic order. Destroy their colonies. Burn their alliances. And find this Rail Maddox. Alive? 1-8 asked. Talshore didn't answer. He just stared at the image of a single human ship hovering above a shattered battlefield. Back aboard Heaven's Fist, Rail stood alone in his quarters. His hands were steady now. He remembered every face he'd seen in the rift. Every flash of flame. Every silent explosion. Isaac, he said, status of next-generation systems? Phase 2 prototypes complete. The Judgment of Dawn is nearly ready. Rail exhaled. Good. We're going to need her. His gaze returned to the porthole. He wasn't afraid anymore. The galaxy had stopped laughing. Now it would start listening. The halls of the Europa Summit Dome were colder than usual, not just from the ice beneath the flooring but from the tension hanging like frost in the air. Every representative in the chamber wore a different flag on their shoulder: Mars, Titan, Ganymede, the Belt Syndicates, even Earth's old Terran Authority. The seats were filled, but unity was absent. Commander Rail Maddox stood at the center, silent, hands clasped behind his back, boots still stained with dust from Helix Rift. His face was calm, unyielding. But even he could feel the storm building. "You've started a war, Commander," snarled Chancellor Ray Vona of Titan. "One we are not prepared to fight." "We were already in it," Maddox replied evenly. "We just weren't shooting back." "And now," she barked. "Now Concord fleets burn and their dead float past trading lanes. What do you think comes next?" "Justice," he said. "Or extinction. That's the choice we've always had." Around him, voices erupted, shouts, accusations, fear dressed as diplomacy. He let them speak. Let the noise build. Then, when the volume peaked, he reached forward and tapped the embedded console on the summit table. The lights dimmed. A projection bloomed in the air above them, silent footage from Outpost E9. First the settlement, peaceful and gray against the rock. Then the orbital strike, white-hot beams tearing down from orbit. The camera went static after that. Gasps echoed across the room. Some delegates looked away. Others didn't blink. That, Maddox said, his voice low but unwavering, was not war. That was slaughter. The Concord has no intention of negotiating. They see us as inferior. Disposable. But they made one mistake. He stepped forward, gaze sweeping across the room. They assumed we'd stay quiet. That we'd keep burying our dead and calling it peace. An hour earlier, Maddox had stood in an abandoned hangar on Europa's lower level, speaking to a man he hadn't seen in a decade. Admiral Elias Halvorsen was old now, older than he should have been. Bones sharp, face carved by 100 command decisions that had all come too late. He walked with a cane and talked with the weight of wars long lost. "Still starting fights, Rail," he said, not unkindly. "Still telling everyone to wait until we're more strategically positioned?" Halvorsen chuckled dryly. "Fair." They sat at a crate stacked with dust-covered oxygen canisters. No guards, no politics. Just two men who had seen too much. "I saw the rift footage," Halvorsen said. "That wasn't luck. That was execution. It was necessity." "And the Concord?" "Furious," Rail said. "But rattled. They've never been hit like that." The Admiral looked at him long and hard. "The others won't follow you just because you have firepower. They're still afraid. They should be." Halvorsen shook his head. "They're not afraid of the Concord. They're afraid of becoming the Concord. That's the line we have to hold. You want unity? You need to give them more than revenge. Give them a future." Rail didn't answer immediately. He knew Halvorsen was right. Fear only lit torches. It didn't build homes. Back in the summit, Maddox ended the broadcast and took a step closer to the center dais. His voice dropped, sharpened. "Our colonies are fractured. Our people are scattered. For decades we've waited for the galaxy to acknowledge us. We've earned nothing but scorn." He paused. "Let that truth settle. But that ends now. We have the ships. The technology. The will. What we lack is agreement. Not on war. On who we are." "And what are we?" asked Director Lien of Mars, arms crossed. Maddox turned to her. "We're survivors. Fighters. Builders. We came from a world that tried to kill us with every breath, and we tamed it. We adapted, endured, evolved. The Concorde has forgotten what struggle means. But we remember. And now, the galaxy will too. He pulled a second feed onto the display, a live transmission from the orbital shipyards above Europa. Gasps again. Not from horror, but from awe. The Judgment of Dawn, sister ship to Heaven's Fist, slowly emerged from dry dock. Sleek, silent, clad in black armor veined with energy-conducting alloys. Her spine bristled with lance batteries, her engines hummed like a beast waking. Maddox spoke over the reveal. This is not a weapon. It's a promise. We are done kneeling. We are done whispering. Humanity doesn't beg for a seat at the table anymore. We bring the table down and build our own. Silence followed. Then Lien nodded. So did Vona. Others exchanged uncertain glances, then gave slight affirmations. Not all. But enough. The beginnings of unity. Later that night, aboard Heaven's Fist, Maddox stood on the command deck, watching the Judgment of Dawn complete her orbit. Report, he said. Isaac responded instantly. 26 colonies confirmed alignment with Earth Defense Vanguard. 8 remain neutral. 3 unresponsive. They'll follow, Maddox said. Once they see we're not going to vanish. Probability supports this conclusion. Also, Talshore has issued a public threat. Earth is to be blockaded. Rail smiled grimly. Then we break their line before it forms. Recommended strategy? Fast, loud, unexpected. Just like Helix. He turned, walking toward the main console. Prepare the fleet. We go to Titan. And then, the core. In the quiet of his quarters, Rail placed a fresh plaque beside Ava's. This one read. Unity begins with fire. Not a quote. A reminder. One spark, lit in darkness. Enough to set the galaxy alight. The void near Titan was not silent. It trembled. Far beyond the icy rings, the largest battlecruiser humanity had ever built, Judgment of Dawn, cast a long shadow across Saturn's pale light. Its engines flared softly as it moved into position beside Heaven's Fist. Below them, the orbital defense array of Titan flickered on for the first time in decades. It wasn't a drill. War had come to Sol. Status? Rail Maddox asked, voice low, steady. Zarkith Concorde fleet en route from Transit Corridor Sigma 8, Isaac reported. 6 dreadnoughts. 2 carriers. Estimated arrival, 23 minutes. Rail didn't blink. All ships hold position. Engines cold. Let them think we're not ready. Behind him, his command team remained silent, their faces lit by tactical overlays glowing on every surface. Lieutenant Cora's fingers hovered over her console, jaw tight, posture rigid. They know we're here. They wouldn't bring that kind of firepower if they thought we were bluffing. Rail turned to her. They still think they know us. That's their mistake. Far across the system, the Concorde fleet pierced into view, dark monoliths emerging from folded space, each one shaped like a curved blade. The lead vessel, Vastal Resurgence, bore the sigil of High Lord Talshore himself. Inside its war room, Talshore studied the projections of Earth's forces. He saw 2 capital-class cruisers. He saw limited support craft. He saw a species outmatched. Begin approach, he ordered. Their arrogance ends today. Back on Heaven's Fist, the human fleet remained motionless. Do we engage? Cora asked. Not yet. Sir, if they close within lance range. That's exactly what I want, Maddox said. He walked to the holomap, tapped a blinking marker near Saturn's northern magnetic pole. Activate phase spark. A surge of gravitational distortion rippled across local space as 5 stealth platforms hidden in Saturn's radiation belts came online. They didn't emit heat or signals. They were pure math and metal, graviton wells calibrated to mimic dying star fields. The Concorde ships, approaching confidently, failed to register the trap until it was too late. One dreadnought veered sideways, its navigational AI caught in the false readings. Another's internal gyros locked up, mistaking the area for an unstable gravity sink. Then Judgment of Dawn fired. A pulse beam lanced outward, silent and blinding, cutting through space like a razor. It struck the third dreadnought center mass. The detonation wasn't explosive. It was surgical. The ship buckled inward, folding like collapsing steel before vanishing in silence. "One down," Cora whispered. "Make it 3, Maddox replied. Heaven's Fist rotated smoothly and fired its twin black matter lances into the flank of the staggered fleet. The first shot disabled a carrier's shield generator. The second bored into its engine core, sparking a chain reaction. The carrier bloomed into light and fragments. Talshore stood unmoving on his bridge. "They've built more than weapons," he said. His second-in-command, an avian officer with pale feathers darkened by blood spray, took a hesitant step forward. "Your Excellency, they are adapting faster than projected. We should fall back in." Talshore raised one claw and sliced the officer across the throat. "We do not retreat from insects." The Concorde returned fire. Torrents of white plasma cascaded across the rift, turning vacuum into fire. One human escort, Trident 6, took a direct hit and fractured apart, scattering debris toward Titan's orbit. "Get those life pods retrieved," Rail ordered. "Now." "Yes, Commander," Cora said, already coordinating recovery drones. The bridge shuddered as Heaven's Fist absorbed a glancing blow. Internal dampeners groaned. Sparks flared overhead. "Shields at 74%, Isaac reported. Recalibrating energy flow. Suggest evasive spread." "Denied," Rail said. "Hold formation. They want chaos. We give them precision." He turned toward the display, watching Talshore's flagship move to the center of the Concorde formation. "That's where this ends." Judgment of Dawn surged forward. The ship rotated mid-flight, exposing a bank of rotating railed batteries previously hidden in her stern. Supercooled tungsten rounds, accelerated to relativistic speeds, slammed into the enemy formation like meteorites. A fourth dreadnought crumpled. Then Heaven's Fist vanished, Blink jumped via microfold to point-blank range of the flagship. "Isaac, all power to forward lance." "Confirmed." "Charging." Talshore's ship scrambled to raise its forward shield array, but the movement came a half-second too late. The black matter lance punched through. Not deep enough to destroy, but enough to open a wound. Enough for Rail. "Prepare boarding pods," he said. Cora turned sharply. "You're going in?" "Talshore dies today. Personally." The boarding pod slammed into the flagship's side, cutting through the hull like a spike. The breach filled with fire and screams. Rail emerged first, rifle drawn, followed by 6 armored soldiers. The Zarkith resistance was brutal, blade limbs, plasma halberds, war cries and alien dialects. But the humans were faster. Tighter. Maddox moved like a blade, his armor HUD tagging hostiles before they could react. They reached the bridge in under 4 minutes. Talshore waited. "You've become clever," the alien lord said, standing atop the command platform. "We were always clever," Maddox replied. "You were just too arrogant to see it. You think this changes anything? You think killing me gives you dominion?" "No," Rail said, raising his weapon. "But it makes damn sure they remember who we are." Talshore lunged, not with a weapon, but bare hands. For all his size, he moved with predatory speed. Maddox barely sidestepped the strike, spun, and fired twice into the alien's side. Talshore staggered, dropped to one knee. Blood, black and viscous, poured from his ribs. "We could have ruled you," he gasped. "You tried. And you failed." Maddox pulled the trigger one last time. Back aboard Heaven's Fist, the transmission came through moments later. "Target neutralized. Concord flagship has gone dark. Remaining fleets retreating. Isaac confirmed. Enemy forces in full withdrawal. Human losses, moderate. Victory assured." On every human colony, news feeds lit up. The Battle of Titan was over. And Earth had won. In orbit, Rail stood by a viewport as the ruins of the Concorde flagship drifted through space. "This isn't the end," Cora said beside him. "No," he agreed. "It's the beginning." She looked at him, uncertain. Of what? He didn't answer right away. Outside, 2 Earth-built cruisers drifted into formation, engines glowing like embers. "Of a galaxy that knows our name," he said quietly, "and fears it."